To start off, names will be changed. No specific city, but takes place in Ohio. I recently moved to a town in Ohio, a smaller city than what I'm used to, and with a lot more history. There are so many rumors of people seeing the Rake or even Slender Man, sometimes a creature that's just unexplainable. Phenomena happens almost every day in this town, I'm told. I guess it's my turn to share my experience. Recently, I've been quite closed-minded after leaving friends and family many hours behind and being the new kid in town. During the middle of the summer, and only doing online school for my last year of high school, I don't get much social time. I spend my days playing Xbox or browsing Reddit, and most of the time working my new job. We moved into a house that has some of the most history, all the way from a father killing his wife, and daughters to teenagers breaking in, being placed face to face with the Rake or Slender Man. My room, unfortunately, happens to be one of the most active rooms. During the night, the sliding closet doors will slowly open, followed by the patter of soft footsteps on the carpet, and then only for me to discover the door is closed and no one is around. This night was different. Typical night, playing Xbox, talking to friends. The clock nears 2 a.m. Everyone says their goodbyes and proceeds to go offline, except me. I have nothing to do tomorrow, I think. Might as well stay up for a while. I put in one of my older games, still fun though, Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell Double Agent. I continue playing till 3 a.m. when I receive a text. Naturally, I just set my controller down and respond. I hear footsteps. "Hey, who's there?" I say clearly, seeing as I'm alone, parents are out of town. No response. I look up onto the screen and see my character freely walking around, as if being controlled, yet my controller is in my lap and the joysticks aren't jammed. Unexpectedly, Sam, the game's character, turns and looks as if he's staring at me. But not at me, through me almost. His face begins to make weird motions, contortions almost, twisting and morphing. The screen goes black. A loud screeching noise emits from my console. The red rings of death means the console needs repair. Comes on. "Just fucking great," I say under my breath. The screen turns blue. Then the game reappears just as before, with only a black screen and a small white light surrounding the character. "What the hell is going on?" I say. That's when it struck me. This is no longer the character from the game being shown. It's Slender Man, staring right at me, through my screen. He begins to slowly crawl through my TV, coming for me. I get up to try to run, but my body's frozen in fear. His face comes a mere 2 inches from mine. Chills are sent up my spine. The hairs on my neck stand up. I awake in a cold sweat. Fuck, I passed out, I thought. I must have stayed up too late because I fell asleep in my gaming chair with the Xbox still on. I look at the clock, 4:30 a.m. I look around in my room in panic, hoping nothing out of the ordinary had happened. The closet door is open, my bedroom window is open, so is the balcony door in the living room. Shit, maybe someone came in and robbed us. Maybe I got up to let the dog out, mid-sleep, and passed back out before letting him in. I check the house, nothing missing. I go back into my room, the clock reads 2:16 a.m. "What the hell?" I exclaim in panic. I rush over to the clock to see what's wrong, and it's unplugged. I get this eerie feeling I'm being watched. I slowly turn my head towards the closet, just to catch a glimpse of the door sliding shut. Needless to say, I left my house and took my dog with me. Yes, he's okay, and didn't return until daytime. It's 3:50 p.m. now, and I fear for what will happen tonight, if anything at all. I'll update.
I want to start off by saying that I really have no idea what I saw. All I know is that it was real. It's unfortunately 100% true. I was longboarding home from a buddy's house last night after dark, around 9:30 p.m. I had just rolled into the park behind my old elementary school, and my phone started to vibrate. My mom was calling. I picked up the phone and kept on writing slowly. As I was talking to my mom, I realized my shoe had come untied. I thought to myself, oh, great, my shoe is untied, and I'm in a dark park. Great. I told my mom I was 3 minutes from home and I'd be right there. When I hung up and got off my board, I looked around and bent down to tie my shoe. I already felt uneasy, like something was going to reach out and grab me. My board was rolling away while I was tying my shoe. I didn't stop it completely. As I finished tying my shoe, I ran to get back on my board. Feeling better that I was back on my board, I kept on going. I looked down the dark path when I saw it. A tall, dark man standing 50 meters away from me. It was pitch black outside, but I could still make out the shape of his body in the dark. I stopped to take a second look even though I was terrified. I couldn't help but think it was the Slender man. Tall, no face. It appeared to be getting closer. I picked up my board and ran across the field as fast as I could, avoiding the sand pit, looking back in terror. As I ran faster, it seemed to be following faster, just appearing in different places, closer to me every time. I finally reached the blacktop of the school, and I knew I had to go across it to get where I needed to go, but I decided to take a longer route because I couldn't stand the thought of it getting any closer. I didn't look back after that. I got on my longboard as fast as I could and pushed off even faster. At this point, I was afraid of the dark and everything. I called my buddy whose house I just left and told him everything. He didn't believe me at first, but as I went on, he realized I was out of breath and totally freaking out. I think he believes me now. After I got home, I was totally shaken up, and I realized I had a huge red mark on my arm where my board was hitting me from when I was running. I was seriously scared since I didn't even notice it. My friend and I are going to go back next weekend. Hopefully, we won't find anything.
Hello, everyone. Some of you may have seen me commenting around here lately as I tried to decide if this was the proper place to place my story or not. In order to properly explain the events that have been set in motion, I should most likely start somewhere near the beginning. I'll try not to bore you with too much history. My name is Serena, and my entire life has generally been one train wreck after the next. When I was really young, a bunch of awful things happened to me that, due to dissociative disorder, I can't remember. While I cannot decide whether or not this is a good thing, it is still a fact that I feel obligated to disclose. I'm a very thorough person, and I feel the need to account for every variable when it comes to this case. I grew up with my father, bouncing from house to house. We never stayed in one place for very long. I think the longest we ever lived in a house was a year. Anyway, I've always suffered from paralyzing night terrors. I would wake up screaming in the middle of the night, convinced that there was a man standing in the corner of my room staring at me. As I grew older, the night terrors only seemed to get worse and more violent in nature. My father began to send me to therapy, although in the interest of full disclosure, my therapy was also to help with the aforementioned dissociative disorder, in hopes that maybe a professional could convince me that I wasn't in danger. When I was 13, I broke down crying after an episode of So Weird. It was a Disney/Canadian paranormal TV show around midnight on the Disney Channel, because the man was in the corner, and no matter how many times I blinked my eyes, he would never go away. My therapist believed that he was a figment of my imagination, a projection of my unknown persecutor that my brain was using to try to piece together my fragmented memories. When they started me on a regimen of antipsychotics, the random appearances of the shadow men seemed to die down, and I thought I was living a normal life. Finally, from the time I was 15 until I was 18, I remember every little thing. The doctors call it dissociative amnesia, and apparently it's one of the symptoms of the disorder I suffer from. It's like my life takes a film reel, slices out a section, and then tries to join the film back together. Well, back to the present. I don't know any other way to put it other than he's back. I tried for months to ignore him, hovering outside my window or standing in my backyard. At first I thought I was experiencing some form of psychosis and asked them to increase my medication. After all, they helped me the first time around, right? No such luck. They switched my medications, still no luck. As much as I would like for this man, or whatever he is, to be a figment of my crazy, it doesn't seem like that's the case. The night terrors are worse than ever, and when I wake up in the middle of the night, my dog, Zombie, is curled up in a corner, snarling at me. On more than one occasion, I've woken up with scratch marks across my chest and my back. I've tried the best to recreate the scratches, and while the ones on my chest could have possibly been myself, there has so far not been a way to reproduce the ones on my back. I'm simply not that talented when it comes to popping my arms out of socket. My first thought was that I'm dissociating again, and I'm doing this to myself in an altered state. I would love for this to be another, serious crazy moments. So what did I do? I went full surveillance on my ass and set up a webcam for a week in my bedroom to record me while I slept. There was nothing on the tape for the first 2 nights, but the third night, what I saw on the third night still sends shiver down my spine. Zombie and I were curled up in bed, and there was the usual tossing and turning. The night is pretty uneventful until around 3:45 a.m., where Zombie starts whimpering in his sleep. He gets off the bed, is no longer visible on camera. The whimpering continues as I begin to toss and turn, and this goes on until 4 a.m. When whatever was bothering Zombie seems to go away, sure enough, the next morning I wake up with scratches all over me, and Zombie refuses to come in the bedroom. That was 2 nights ago. I'm writing this here in hopes that maybe some of you will have advice as to how I should head this investigation up. I meant to post the video along with this, but it's no longer on my computer. Originally I thought that I forgot to save it as it recorded, but then I remembered that I would have had to save it to watch it in the first place. I don't know much about this Shadow Man. He's tall and spindly. I remember being terrified the first time my boyfriend showed me Slender Man. I don't know if Slender Man is a real thing or not, but there are too many similarities there for me to willingly research it. Guess I might have to. His eyes are also glazed over like donuts. Maybe he's blind. I don't know. In order to make sure this isn't just me in a dissociative state, I've purchased an activity tracker that tracks sleep, so I'll be able to tell if I'm moving around / walking in the middle of the night. I also have a tape recorder going in my bedroom at night. I will do my best to check in, or at least post a video update once a day until this is solved. I don't know why, but I get the feeling that him being back isn't just a coincidence. It makes me uneasy, but I guess that's to be expected. I just don't know what to do anymore. I thought this was behind me. Update number 1. It's 11 p.m. and I'm ready to crawl into bed. Had some issues getting Zombie to come to bed as well. I read somewhere that you can accidentally injure yourself during sleep paralysis. So to rule that out, I'll be taking a sedative to help me sleep. The downside to this is that I most likely will not wake up for 12 hours after taking it. Update tomorrow with results. I'm terrified, but it needs to be done. Update number 2. Alright, so it's 10 a.m., Monday, July 7th. I would like to tell you that last night was uneventful, but that would be a lie. The sedative worked reasonably well, as usual. I only woke up once during the night, 2:45 a.m. to go to the bathroom. As I walked down the hallway, I was caught off guard by the fact that Zombie was sitting at the end of the hallway staring at me. Him and I have a pretty set routine, and he always stays with me at night and doesn't leave the room until morning. I guess that's a pretty decent reason for me to find it odd why he was staring at me from the end of the hallway. My first thought was maybe I had let him out of the room while I was sleepwalking, so I checked the activity tracker. Until 2:43 a.m., it showed that I was perfectly still. No tossing, no turning. So it definitely would have registered me getting out of bed to let him out of the room. My next guess was maybe I hadn't latched the door properly. However, after experimenting with the latch, due to the lightweight nature of my door and the fan blowing in my room, if it had been unlatched, it would have shut itself. It also would have made a pretty loud noise. I know it's irrational, but the only conclusion I can come up with is that something, or someone, let Zombie out of my room. Seeing as I live alone in the middle of nowhere, I can't find a logical suspect for who might have done it. A reader suggested looking up Eyeless Jack. Thankfully, he didn't bear much resemblance to the entity that's been following me since I was a child. I put out a pen and paper, thinking maybe it would communicate with me what it wants and be on its way. Once I figure out how to post it, I'll add that on here, although it wasn't words as much as scribbles and lines. I don't know what to do other than to keep pushing forward. Update number 3. It's 3:47 p.m., July 8th. I spoke to my therapist today, and they're scheduling me for an emergency sleep study to rule out night terrors. I agreed to go along with it, just to rule it out, but I know that they won't find anything. As much as I've been fighting it, I know that the man with the glowing eyes is real. I'm sure that I've always known this, but it's been hard to admit that some unknown entity is following you around. Last night, I left my video and audio recorders on in hopes of getting some concrete evidence. When I tried to listen to the audio this morning, I heard about 10 seconds of growling and scratching followed by silence before the tape ate itself. I guess I probably should upgrade to digital. Add that to the list. Video showed nothing except that the sounds couldn't have been Zombie. He was still the entire night. I still don't know how to explain it, but I feel like the man is counting down to something. I couldn't find the memo pad to take a picture to upload, but this morning there were more scribbles, followed by the number 9 in the center. 9 what? It's unnerving not to know. Maybe I'll go stay at my boyfriend's tonight. The sleep study is tomorrow. I'm terrified that I may not make it until then. Even now, it's like there are worms crawling under my skin.
I'm a 16-year-old male, and just as I finished my sophomore year in high school, my family and I moved out of our city apartment and into a country home. This happened about a month and a half ago. I don't like the country, but apparently, the kids don't get a say in this decision. I have a 9-year-old brother and a baby sister. My parents thought it would be better for them if we moved somewhere more peaceful, in their words. The house was old and had a musty stench to it. Everything in the house was covered in dust, so we had to spend the first few days just cleaning the house before we started to unpack. We had been there less than a week when things started getting a little weird. My brother was complaining that he was hearing things at night and asked me if I would sleep in his room with him, since he had bunk beds. I agreed to sleep in his room for one night, just to see if I heard anything unusual. The night was fairly normal, and while I did hear some light groaning, I just attributed it to the old house making noises. Once I did fall asleep, I was in a deep, restful sleep. The next morning, my brother confronted me, asking me if I heard the noises. I explained to him that old houses make noises, and that while it was creepy, it was normal and nothing to worry about. He pouted at me, dissatisfied with my answer. I rubbed his head and walked back to my room to continue unpacking. My brother stopped complaining about the noises after I talked to him about them, but each day he looked a little less rested. I was also finding dirty pajamas in the hamper. I commented on his appearance to my parents, who shrugged it off, saying he would get used to the house soon enough, and once he did, he would start sleeping well. I then mentioned the dirty pajamas, and they suggested that he was simply sweating in his sleep. I wasn't satisfied with their answer, but I knew it was futile to push the issue with them. Later that night, I decided to poke my head into his room to see if he was really sleeping at night. I looked in there and didn't see him on the bottom bunk, where he usually slept, so I climbed a little ladder and looked in the top bunk. Nothing. I started worrying, but assumed maybe he was sleepwalking, and that might be why he wasn't getting a good night's sleep. It would also explain how his pajamas were getting so dusty and dirty from walking around this still partially uncleaned house. So, I started searching the house to find him. I didn't have a plan for when I did find him, but I had to make sure he was okay. So I checked the upstairs briefly, poking my head into our parents' room, where all I found was my parents fast asleep and my baby sister in her crib. He definitely wasn't in my room or his room, so all that was left upstairs was the bathroom, which he also wasn't in. So I headed downstairs. I searched the kitchen, living room, bathroom, and the guest room. He was nowhere to be found. Now I was actually worried. The front door was still locked, but when I checked the back door, I found it ajar. I went outside onto the back porch, and he wasn't there. So I went back upstairs to put on some sneakers and get a flashlight before going outside to find my brother. I went outside and checked the sides of the house. Then I checked the front yard. Nothing. I started off towards the woods in the backyard, where he would often play with his new friends during the day. Once I reached the border of the woods, I shined the flashlight and looked around a bit. I finally was able to see his light blue pajamas with race cars on them, and I called out his name. He didn't respond, so I went into the woods to get him. I know you aren't supposed to wake up sleepwalkers, but my brother could get seriously hurt sleepwalking in the woods at night, so I decided I would have to wake him up and take him back inside. As I got closer to him, I realized he wasn't alone. He was standing beside a tall man, holding his hand. I immediately panicked and stared at the man, who had noticed me by the light of my flashlight. He had to be nearly 7 foot tall. He had bloodshot eyes and no discernible nose, just slits in his thick, leathery skin. His lips seemed too thin and too small for his large mouth. My heart dropped when he started walking towards me, taking slow, deliberate steps. My brother walked with him to me. Once he was about 2 feet away, he stopped. His lips even split open and bled when he opened his mouth to smile at me, revealing his teeth. They were yellow and long, so long he was unable to close his mouth completely. They twisted at unnatural angles inside of his mouth. I tried to run, to escape from this thing towering over me, but my goddamned legs wouldn't budge. He lifted his free hand from his side, raising it up to show me his disgusting nails. They were long, dirty, and chipping away. His smile grew wider as the terror became apparent on my face. He put his hand on my shoulder, touching my neck. He was unnaturally cold to the touch. He then leaned over, breathing onto my ear, before speaking in a deep, gravelly voice. "Come with us," he said softly. I had no idea what to say in response. I wanted to yell and scream and hit him, but I was afraid if I tried to fight him, he might take my brother. So I nodded in response. I'll come with you, if you let my brother go home." He stopped to think for a moment. "Okay," he said. "I'll let your brother go home if I could have you." Tears streamed down my face as I nodded slowly. He smiled again, showing his terrifying teeth once more. He released my brother's hand, who snapped out of his trance-like calm state and started running back towards the house. The tall man took my hand and walked me deeper into the forest. I blacked out at this point and woke up the next morning in my bed. I had blood in my boxer briefs and dirt on my pajamas. I know what was happening to my brother. I know that the tall man was sneaking into his room and taking him out into the woods to rape him at night. I know this now because now it's happening to me. The man, he isn't human, at least not anymore. I don't know what to do or who to tell. My brother seems to have forgotten everything that happened to him. Maybe a side effect of the man letting him go. He seems to have an influence on what I'm able to remember and what I forget. I just pray that when he's done with me, he'll make me forget all of this. Or kill me. Hey guys, thank you all for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join the Nightmare Army. I'm always looking for new soldiers in my Nightmare Nation. So, I want to give a big thank you to HollyWizzle once again for joining me on my Collaboration Tuesdays. Thank you so much, and if you guys haven't, please check out her channel. She's awesome. So anyways, guys, how are you all doing? Did you guys check out E3? Oh my god, so many great games. Holy shit. I mean, like, I was sitting at my friend's house watching it, like the giant group of gamers that we are, and they got like frickin' Hideo Kojima's game, the Spider-Man game, God of War, Mafia 3, Skyrim Remastered. Just so much stuff. Prey. I know there's probably a whole load of other games that I'm forgetting to mention, but oh my god. Could you imagine if they announced like another Slender game at E3? Oh man. I mean, the first one scared the living shit out of me, but I'm not gonna lie, guys, narrating some of these stories, I got really scared. I mean, like, when I was going to bed last night, I slept with one eye open. I'm not even gonna lie, I was so paranoid. But anyways, guys, I'm sorry to drag this on a little bit for you guys, but thank you all for watching, and just remember, the best ideas always come out of nightmares.